Welcome to this session organized by Utopia Analytics and Hyperworld. My name is Mari-Sanna Paukkeri. I'm the CEO of Utopia Analytics, which is a text analytics company. And my own background is in machine learning and computational linguistics. I have PhD on those fields, and I have been working on these fields for over 15 years. I'm going to talk about how advanced AI enables fair and toxic-free online communities. And let's start. We all know what AI is. But in fact, such like there are better and not so good cars, there are also better AI and not so good AI to be used in practice. Let's look what kind of categories of AIs there are. Let's see. So first of all, some people talk about AI when they talk about any IT or any device which has a CPU. This kind of tool, it is just normal computers, what we have everywhere, and they don't have any learning systems in them. Also, many kinds of rule-based systems which analyze data are sometimes referred to as AI. These rule-based systems are rules where you check if the data contains something and then you decide what you do if you find some kind of content. They can also be called filters or filtering. A bit more advanced rules are those which also use business information, and they are maintained on regular basis or updated so that the rules follow the business's current systems, but still they are only rules. What is proper AI, in my opinion, is something that uses machine learning. Traditional machine learning systems, they also use some kind of rules or word lists, especially when they handle natural language data. For numbers and categorical information, they are very good tools, but for natural languages, they don't perform very well. We have also advanced AI, which is machine learning. And besides doing all the other things what these traditional AI tools do for all kinds of data, they also understand the semantic meaning of text, and they understand the meaning of text in context. This advanced AI is the topic what I'm talking in this presentation. Advanced AI, using that, there's a huge difference it can make for online communities. Online communities is all about connecting to your friends and meeting new people. People are talking to each other, communicating to each other. But unfortunately, in online communities, there are always players who don't behave. This kind of bad behavior and toxic content is very well known in social media. And we are not quite sure why this happens, but anonymity must be one of the reasons. Let's look what this toxic content can be. I think all of us, we have seen this kind of writing, but there might be much more than what you have seen. First of all, and the biggest group is just simple bad behavior. Also, violence is part of this group. Repeated unpoliteness, bullying, annoying other players. That is the biggest part of toxic content online. Then we have hate speech. There are many definitions for hate speech, but one is that hate speech is public speech that expresses hate or encourages to violence towards a person or a group. And the basis of this is of the person's or group's race, religion, gender, origin, sexual orientation, some other background information. Grooming can be seen on platforms where are younger players or younger participants. That is establishing an emotional connection with a child, and the target of this is sexual abuse later. This is very, very bad kind of toxic content. Then there is sexual harassment. Any unwelcome sexual behavior is in this category. And from victim's point of view, it can be offensive, humiliating, or intimidating. Defamation is something that is defined in local legislations, and usually it means false statement that harms the reputation of an individual. In some countries, it can also be a true statement, and the reputation can be of an organization instead of an individual. But what is important in all of this is that any of this toxic content can be a crime. And that's why it is very important to not allow this kind of behavior on your platforms. We need a process in every online platform to minimize this kind of toxic behavior. And the way of minimizing is moderation. A person who does this moderation work, they have a power to decide what is good and what is bad behavior. What if this person uses this power in a wrong way? What if this person, for example, declines all content which is against their own opinion? Or if they let their friends say whatever at the same time when they ban many other users on the platform? Now we are in the ethical questions. Moderation is about ethics. How do we define good behavior in our own community? And what is right and what is wrong? Moderation is not only about ethics, it is also about tools. The fact is that in online communities, the volumes are very high and humans just simply can't handle all the content. They need both processes and technology to handle the moderation work. So setting up this kind of moderation for online community, it starts from creating community guidelines, how you want your users behave in your platform. These guidelines should be published to your users so that every user at least knows what kind of behavior is accepted and what isn't. When creating the community rules, you will face ethical questions, how to define good and bad. One approach to be responsible is to take a formal definition as the basis of your guidelines. We at Utopia, we have chosen United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights as the background of our moderation work. And here are the most important articles in this declaration. They demand equal treatment to humans, and they also demand freedom of speech. And the next one is a strong recommendation against using reputation scores to ban players in the moderation work. But I'd like to recommend using only the text content at the moment to be used as the basis of moderation. Let's look at an example. There is a message which has been written by player A, B, and C, the very same message, and the message has been written in the similar kind of context. So if using reputation scores for different players, it may happen that if player A or B said this message, it was accepted for showing for other players. But if it was C, player C, who said this, the message was declined. The reason why player C was treated in a different way was that that person was not behaving very well 1 week back in another discussion, and now this person's reputation is low. This is not fair treatment between the players. Instead, the moderation should be done in a way that independently on who wrote the message, the moderation is done in the same way. Of course, the context should be taken into account. Moderation process should focus on actual content now and not giving reputation scores to people. And this is equal treatment. So let's then talk about tools. What kind of tools there are using advanced AI. As I said in the beginning, advanced AI understands the semantic meaning and the messages written between the users. And this Utopia AI moderator tool is able to learn also the language, what is used in the messages, even if it is the local dialect in your platform. The tool also understands the policy, moderation policy, what you are following, which you created in your community guidelines. It learns your own culture, and it understands what is the legislation behind your guidelines. This tool is trained using only earlier human moderated messages as the training data. So the training data exists already if you have done any manual moderation on your platform earlier. These messages and their moderation decisions are given for Utopia AI moderator, and it takes only 2 weeks for the tool, for us at Utopia to get this tool production quality to follow your own moderation policy. It can moderate 100% of new messages automatically, and it can also learn more. Let's see how it works. So if the AI model is now available for a customer behind Utopia API, when a new message comes in to the platform, it is right away sent for moderation to Utopia API. And all the new messages are moderated in tens of milliseconds. There are also a few messages where Utopia AI moderator has understood that the human moderation decisions didn't follow each other. So some decisions accepted this content and some of them declined. And this tool can't know which one is the right moderation decision. And it marks this kind of content and any new content as gray area to be checked by human moderators. This human check can be done later, for example, the day after, and it is used for training the tool again, so it stays up to date. Utopia takes care of all this retraining and checking the quality of the AI tool, which has been developed for you. We also have a separate snowball process, which we use in situations if you don't have any manual decisions, human moderation decisions in your platform. So we can help you to get this AI model built anyways in only 2 to 3 weeks. As a summary, to get the fair and toxic-free community, you need to create your own community guidelines. You need to be ethical in how your guidelines are and how you follow them. You need to use accurate tools so that you can make sure that your users are following your guidelines. And in this way, you're able to increase the gaming experience and players' lifetime. Then I'd like to ask Sean to talk about how they have been using this tool just recently on your platform.
Yes, absolutely. Happy to jump in here. Realizing how bad my hair is. So this is my quarantine beard to start out with. You'll see the beautiful glamour shot in my profile photo from a long time ago. But have a lot of experience working in online games, and we'll jump in a little bit and talk about how we've been working with Utopia recently, really to solve one of the problems that we looked at going in when we wanted to add some chat and community interaction. So let me pop up what I got going on here, if it wants to. And there we go. Hopefully everybody can see what I got going on the screen. So really we started out figuring out what can we do. We want to build a positive experience. Been involved in a few games online. And the big issue here is, that things are going to go a little crazy. Give you a quick background. I'm the Chief Strategy and Marketing Officer over at Hyber, which is a platform where people basically can create their own games in a browser today. And I like to present it kind of like Minecraft meets Roblox meets TikTok. So if you put these things together and you over time put them into an app and get that kind of really short format experience, you have some really cool stuff going on. I've got over 25 years in the game industry. I've worked for Sony Online, Ubisoft, been the CEO of multiple companies out there doing all sorts of fun things, from progressive download to 3D graphics in Flash and other places. Worked on more than 600 titles, but the last 11 years, my claim to fame is I've worked with a lot of studios around the world, helping them kind of position for their exits. So building strong companies, going through the entire process of building up a company that people would want to acquire. But part of that is having a strong community, having really strong metrics, and making sure that you have something that is growing. I've been an advisor, a board member on a few places, including a public company out in Sweden right now. Been a mentor. I've invested in over 100 companies. Love ice hockey. Used to play bass, and I like to solve puzzles. So just a little human aspect to me. Here's 20 plus MMO online games that I remember working on. Like I said, there's more, but I'm getting a little bit older. But everything from working on EverQuest 2, Age of Conan, Dungeons and Dragons Online. There's a lot of games here that you might have heard of. Did not work on World of Warcraft. I worked on EverQuest 2 at the time because I was at Sony Online running international product PR back in 2003, 2004. But I have a long history of working on online games and communities. I actually keynoted the first community management conference back in Leipzig, Germany, probably 13 years ago. So been working on this stuff for a long time. A pretty good concept of the aspects behind setting up an online community. So when we walked into it at Hyber, and this is a company that I actually shut down my business because I believed what the team was working on was so amazing. I wanted to be a part of it. So last summer, I joined this company in Gothenburg, Sweden called Hyber, as I said. And we started looking at some of the considerations of making our platform even more social. Some of the considerations that were there. The community wants to be social. They wanted multiplayer. They wanted to be able to talk. They want to be able to share their content. Big parts are chatting with friends, being able to send messages back and forth. And they were already commenting on different games, kind of in the YouTube style, where you'd go and, hey, great game. I like what you did here. Asking questions, having fun. But then, of course, over time, these things are going to evolve. You're going to want to talk to new people, they're going to make new friends, and they're going to be interacting with strangers. So that can be concerning. As a platform holder, someone who's actually operating this, there's a lot of things you have to consider. So for us, privacy concerns, whether it be GDPR, how are we tracking user data? Is it in Europe only? There's California privacy rights. There's different privacy rights emerging all the time. India is actually considering new privacy rights. There's lots of things to consider. So you have to kind of track and watch what's going on there. And you have to make sure that you're complying with it on the legal side. So I look at it and say you have to have some information from your user base in order to operate the platform in the first place. So if you're going to have an account, I have to be able to keep your data, but then I have to comply with all of these different pieces and make sure it's in the EU, it's on something where we have a data policy. We have a chief data officer who is compliant with all these different policies to make sure that things stay protected and that people have a way to opt out and all the other parts. There's age concerns. We would require a user to be over 13 to have an account. And an account's important because if you want to be able to save any kind of games that you create, you would have to have an account. And right now that would be tied to an email address and you confirming that your birth date is over 13 years ago to the day, or have some kind of parent confirm this. You want to be able to track achievements and progress while people play. Statistics are important. And then recently, it's been the ability to chat. One of the hard parts here when you talk about age concerns is that people lie. At a certain point, a large percentage of the user base of Facebook was actually under 13. But you can't target under 13 for obvious reasons, and you don't want to target under 13 because, for the most part, they don't have money. So it becomes an issue when people who are 13 are smart enough just to scroll the date down. And I've done this on Steam when I just want to go look at something, even though I'm in my mid-40s, I'll scroll the date down to 1936 or wherever I land that's over 18 years old in order to look at whatever content, because for some reason they don't capture that on that platform saying, wow, this person's been over 18 for a long time. Maybe we should just let them look at whatever content they want. Other concerns we went in, it's can the community share personal information? And this is where the utopia part started to come in. The thinking of who could help us look at these different pieces. People sharing their passwords and their login information, phone numbers, addresses where they live. Oh, I live in this apartment. And recently, one of the emergent behaviors is people who are getting into a chat conversation on our platform, because we have launched the closed chat using Utopia as a tool to help us with that, to do their Zoom room numbers. And it's like, wow, people are putting out numbers because they want to move into a different platform in order to have a deeper conversation, faster, longer, and probably with video. So we know that video is something that people are looking at, but also this creates some integrity issues in terms of how safe can a platform be if you're allowing that kind of stuff. And as Mari-Sanna said, some of the behavior concerns, the dating and the sex talk, the bullying, the hate speech, and she pointed out in many other ways, the other unsavory behaviors. And I look at that and say there's a lot of things people can do on a platform that are intimidating, hurtful, and a bad experience with the platform doesn't just reflect upon the person who did that action. It reflects upon, wow, how could that happen in a place that I was having a good time, I was having fun. It's a game space, right? So we're all looking to have fun in an online game. If it turns out that we're having unsavory experiences or things that we really just don't want, we're not going to stick around. So our approach is we looked at it and is kind of the idea of working in different stages. We have to set stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 in most cases. Stage 1 is we put some general filtering in place. And that's the core bad words. And you already know them. They're the George Carlin skit, the words you're not supposed to say. I won't say them here. There's the password, and there's different abbreviations that put down PW, PWRD, PWD, the address, which they can ask in different ways. You live where? your house is what, Elm Street, where, phone numbers, and on platform already, right? We had this already in place before I even joined the company. And it was because we already knew, just from experience, that you're going to have a way to moderate some of the information, some of the comments people were making, some of their interactions. And that's because we already had the YouTube kind of setup where people would post a new game, people would play it, and they'd give feedback. Hey, I love what you did here. And then other people would be like, hey, do you live in Chicago? I'm in Chicago. And that kind of information isn't great. But sometimes some of the words here are too harsh. For instance, if somebody were to post a password and say, hey, can I put my password out there? And it would put the asterisks in there, and you'd say, oh, they're not going to be able to post that. Ha. But we had the same issue on the moderators originally, where the moderators also couldn't use the same password when they're trying to say, hey, don't share your password. It would say, hey, don't share your star. Stage 2, build out the AI to help manage the majority of the issues. This is the Utopia Analytics part. We actually watched a presentation at the Pocket Gamer Conference back in January. Mari-Sanna was talking about how this stuff works, and had some other people with experience in platforms that actually had children on them or were dealing with some of the data issues related to children at the time. And although we're not focused on children, it sounded like a really interesting solution. So we approached them. We ended up talking to Tuka, who's super cool over there, and really set up kind of a test to start with. So the way it's been working so far is we've had a project manager come in. We've gone through multiple rounds of this batch text. It comes over. We do a Google Sheet, and the community manager and I go through, and I take different languages because I speak Spanish and a few other interesting languages that are all mostly Latin or Germanic based. And I can look at Portuguese, I can look at Spanish, I can look at Italian, French, German, and Japanese is another one I have in the hole there. So I deal with those parts, and we have our community manager who speaks Swedish and English and a couple other languages as well. And we can kind of figure out what people are trying to say there. And we're the human part of the AI mixture. So the humans give the context here, and we rate it either a 1 or a 2. And the 1 is acceptable, the 2 is unacceptable. And kind of get that down, and there's a lot less coming each time. So the AI is actually learning, and they're looking at the context and saying, whoa, this is not good. One of the interesting things that we had as soon as we had a chat was people talking about wanting to be boyfriends and girlfriends and wanting to date each other. And we had some experiences where, it helped us really train the AI and kind of change some of the behaviors there, because it wasn't super positive for half the people involved in these dating relationships who were like, well, I already have a person who's a significant other in real life. So not interested in having an online relationship. That's not why I'm here. I'm here to create and play and have fun, which is exactly what we support. We want people to be there creating, playing, and have fun. So it's been really, really great working with Utopia on this. And one of the great things that we learned here is let the community try and beat that filter. You get variations of the ways they want to say different things. So there's many ways to say the same things. If you look, there's over 100 different ways to type in the FU or say FU to somebody else because you have no interest in what they have to say or you want to shut them down. And then stage 3 is really coming up for us, which is to continue to refine and really monitor the things that are happening in the community. And it's important to be a community manager every day, as often as you can. If you have a small team, maybe you check it every couple hours. If you're a larger team, you should be checking it all the time. And one of the goals of the AI is to really reduce the number of people required to have a positive community and remove the toxicity just as it comes, so it doesn't actually gain a foothold and become a real problem. So this is one of the things that's enabling us in the future to be able to do open chat. And that's because we use this initial 3-week phase to kind of test out our closed chat and how people would react when they were already friends and they're already in social groups versus when they don't know someone new coming in, and how are you going to act to the new kid, right? The new person in town. There's no rules on that. So kind of the idea is set it up with the people you know so you can deal with the people you don't know, and hopefully you create those best behaviors. One thing to point out here is the community is very smart. They will always find different ways to express their opinions, get their point across to other people. Like, I don't like the way you talked to this person or did this. So it's about learning. It's about training the AI over time, and then using the human personal touch when you need to make sure that you're delivering the best possible quality. And then, because I've been doing this for a long time, here's some of the tips that I have. Watch whenever you find someone toxic in the community. Sometimes it's okay to let them go on for a little bit, not a long time, but maybe a few sessions to kind of see who they're talking to and how the behavior is changing within that group. You'll see that what happens is the single toxic person actually gets one of two reactions. One is people come to the aid of the people who are being attacked, or they start to pile on around the toxicity. And what you need to do is basically look at that and say, okay, how do we change the situation? And you would engage the toxic person in the best positive discussion you could have, and look to help them with whatever issue has caused them to have this problem. Obviously, if it's something like, I'm upset because this person is of a different race or sex or creed or whatever, you're not going to be able to fix that problem. But if it's because of a perceived slight, or someone beat them in a game and they didn't think it was fair, there's a lot of ways to prove those things. So, take the time to engage with the different people, and don't just write them off immediately. I think that's one of the great things about what Mari-Sanna said earlier, is to take the text not with the context that this person has been a poor person on the platform before, but take it in its context alone. And I think that plays into this idea here. And also starting with that strong set of expectations and rules for the community, because it really makes it so everyone knows what the rules are. And we've seen this in our community. We have a great group of people who are really engaged, and they're the most empowered. When they see something going on, they say something. They'll bring it to the attention of the different people on the platform who work for the company. And we have a way to get in there really quickly and talk to these people and say, what's going on? How can we fix this? And then here's my super secret trick for people who are managing things today. Cookies for chat boards can be set to very short times, i.e. 1 to 2 seconds, so that a commenter who's going and they're writing out a big, long chat message, which is awful and evil, can actually end up posting. And what happens is they time out and they time out and they try it 2 to 3 times, and eventually they give up and the toxic message is gone. But ultimately, it's about having that great possible experience, in the first place, and making sure that everyone's having the best fun. So I think I'll throw it back to Mari-Sanna.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you very much. Minutes time for questions. So if you have any questions, please send them through the chat functionality. I think you're able to send questions there. The other seems not to be working. So please send questions for me or Sean if you have any. I could start by asking Sean, you have a very long experience in games. And for a new game, what do you think? What are the most important things to remember when creating a new community?
I think the biggest thing is to kind of look at what you're trying to build. There's different communities that build for different reasons. I like to think that most online games or mobile games that have online components are building for a long time player experience, that they want to keep people around and they want to actually deal with the entire community. It might not actually be that. In some cases, like World of Warcraft, you have your most super engaged users are the people who consume 90% of the content, and then the most expensive to actually keep. You want to keep them happy, of course, but if they cost 90% of the money and they only generate 8% of your revenue, you start to put out less and less content updates. I think that's why you can look at World of Warcraft today and you're like, oh, a content update used to come out every 3 months or every 6 months. Now it's every 2 to 3 years. So when you look at the community, you need to know that you're going to build something that's long term. Even the worst games have communities that last longer than the game even exists. So a game that's out there and flash pans is dead in 6 months will have a community for 4 or 5 years. But I think it's about making sure it's a positive experience for everybody, or as many people as possible, removing as much toxicity and planning for it in the right way, kind of like how we approached it with Hyber, which is we know people are going to act poorly. And the anonymity of the internet is an interesting thing. Like, I think I can do things here that I can't do in real life. But anybody who's really intelligent would realize that anything you do online, someone smart can figure out who you are. So, anyway, hopefully that answered the question.
Thank you. I've got this question. Can you explain what is really unique and different to other moderation tools on the market? So talking about Utopia AI moderator.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you can start.
For me, I think the difference that I've run into is how fast it trains. Most of the AI that I've been involved with over the years has taken a long time to train, and there's a lot of false positives and a lot of false negatives. This has gotten above that 95% threshold within the first 2 weeks of training, and I think that we're probably at 98% now.
Yeah, we are close to 99, I think, right now.
Yeah. Well, we're not completely done with the training. I have my third batch that I'm working on right now.
Okay, those people used to them.
But I will say I'm super impressed, and we're doing something that the AI is not intended to do from the start, which is normally it's just a single language for training, and we've decided that we're going to go ahead and see how far we can push it. So we're trying to train it for English, for Brazilian Portuguese, for Spanish, because some people are speaking Spanish on the platform in the different regions we're targeting, and all these things happening at the same time. Normally, these would be different engagements, and we're like, okay, let's work with Utopia, and they've been really cool with this. Like, see how far you can push it. How far can we get? Can we make it so it works when someone uses this phrase in this context in a different language, but we kind of put it together? So for me, I'm super impressed with this idea that we can work within multiple languages, all within a single AI. Mm-hmm. It's almost like we're building a child together that's going to grow up and be the greatest community manager around, who says, wait, they're speaking this language, I speak that language, and that's not right.
Yeah, if the languages are mixed in a way how they are in your platform, it is totally possible to build the AI model in that way using this Utopia technology. And for us, it's been fun looking what data we get from you. Well, yeah, you talked about the context. It is one of the most important features in Utopia AI moderator, that it understands the context in which the message has been sent, and this fact that it is able to analyze any language in the world and learn in only 2 weeks. In your case, we use this no-go process. It needs 1 or 2 weeks more because there was not training data in the beginning. But anyway, when we have the proper training material, it takes only 2 weeks to get products in production quality. So that is
Yeah.
the very first, and I think those are the most important differences
Absolutely. Absolutely.
in the market. Then we have
Speed's also super important. I mean, if you look at how fast we need to deploy solutions, and we're working in 1 to 2 week sprints on development teams, we need to make sure that these things are happening really quickly. So if you look at an upper cycle of development happening here and a lower cycle of the community and the AI portion here, to make sure that every time we launch something, that there's a better quality to what we're going to be able to deliver in the community, and that it feels better and people are happier. And I think that's the key, right? Whenever you put something new out, that you feel strongly that people are going to both accept it, but also not have the negative community experience surrounding it. Like people are like, "Oh, I miss the original avatars. You guys suck because you launched a new avatar," and a lot of times in the communities, those are just people who are like trying to prove that they've been there for a long time. Like, I was here since beta 1 and you guys all just showed up. I was like, well, no. You were here a week before us, and then a lot of times they don't have the badges and things to prove it because they weren't really there. My account got hacked. I had to get a new account, right? No, that story doesn't work. Anyway.
Yeah, we have time for one more question. Jason asks, are communities in games being more toxic, especially with the growth of PvP style games, which are more competitive? What do you think, Sean?
So as a former competitive gamer before esports became something, I can say absolutely PvP style games are more toxic. If you go into CSGO, there's really not a lot of moderation unless you have kind of the upgraded account. So in a lot of ways, an online game company will look at their community and say, we're going to balance two things. We're going to balance the quality of the community versus the server liquidity. And server liquidity being, is there somebody there for you to interact with? Somebody there for you to shoot? Even if they're a horrible person, they're saying nasty things and you think they're hacking. Does that provide an experience at a base level that you will accept? So I also look at it from the perspective of how much does that base experience cost? So if it costs me 1.3 cents per person to have on a platform, and then I know my conversion rate to you becoming a paying player is 6%, I have to do the math to say, how many of these people do I have to put through a funnel where everyone's acting absolutely horrible in order to get people to convert? And then I would look at it and go, if I improve the base level part, what's the trade-off? So honestly, it does come down to, if I put more money into making a better quality experience, do I convert more people to make more money over time? And I think that's where you run into what your question is. Are they more toxic? They're more toxic where people have prioritized the volume of people in the system versus the quality and the safety of the people in the system for financial reasons. So I'm not going to throw any specific companies or names out there, but some people do look at it and go, we'd rather have less people, less money, better experience, sleep at night, feel good about ourselves. And other people go, I don't care. I just want as many people through the thing as possible because I don't know what they're saying anyway. And that's when you go and take a game from Asia and bring it over to North America or Europe, and you're like, I don't understand 90% of the stuff that's going on here. I don't care, but there's such a high volume of people, I can make money off of it. Versus, World of Warcraft, who I respect the heck out of. They've done a really incredible job over the years of having a really great community and maintaining millions of people playing a game for 16 years. So
Yeah, I totally agree. In my opinion, in the physical life, we have very strong rules how we should behave, and they are ways of like restricting those people who don't behave. for example, if you go to a music concert, you can go to those at some point of time in the future. There are those security people who take care that everyone behaves, and if you don't, then something is done for you. On online communities, we need a similar kind of security people, which are basically community managers who take care that everyone feels good. Now we have used our time for this session, so thank you, Sean. Thank you very much, and
thank you for having me.
Thank you for all the participants. And if you have any further questions, please contact us. So we are happy to answer. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye bye.